This week, I want to share my answer to a very common question about NPA. Now, the NPA process offers the perspective that it's not personal. A not uncommon reaction to that is, it bloody well is, or maybe it feels bloody personal, or some version of that objection. Now, normally a direct experience of the process generates an intuitive understanding of the power of the non-personal perspective, but the confusions and questions around it do arise, and I was reminded of this by a post by one of our practitioners in training in the NPA Mastery Facebook group. She wrote, "I was having a conversation today with a friend and we did a bit of NPA when she said, I really can't get my head around things not being personal because I believe that I manifest everything, good or bad, in my life, so how can that be non-personal?" And the writer said, "Answers on a postcard, please." I'd love your view on this and anyone else that wants to chime in. That was her post in the Facebook group. Well, my postcard came in the form of a Facebook live video to the group, which I did on the fly while driving home after having my daughter move house. And that's what I'd like to share with you on the podcast today. Now, as ever, the show notes can be found at www.babrillianthuman.com/144, which is the number of this episode. But before we dive in, I want to let you know it's rough and ready, and the 4G got iffy in places. But I think it's a good summary, and I hope that it helps your understanding, maybe intrigues you, and perhaps gets you thinking deeper about the nuances of non-personal awareness. Now, if you're new to non-personal awareness and NPA, you can download the NPA process for free at www.thenpaacademy.com. When you get there, just hit the NPA Quick Start button at the top of the page, and you'll be taken where you can give me your email so I know where to send you the sheet. And if you're curious about our NPA Mastery Practitioner Training Program, just stay tuned at the end for more info about that. So enjoy and let's get into it. Welcome to the Be a Brilliant Human podcast with me, Joel Young. If you're looking to improve your life, to heal, to grow and mature as an individual, but maybe you found that some of the personal development and consciousness stuff has given you the impression that you need to be super serious and vigilant to get anywhere meaningful, or feeling like maybe you're just not up to snuff, well, this show is here to remind you of your humanity, and in fact that's where your true joy and brilliance lies. With over 25 years of experience in the transformation biz and having developed NPA, one of the world's simplest, pressure-free approaches to growth and well-being, if I do say so myself, I'll be sharing tips, steps, and insights that'll help you navigate all the aspects of life as a growth-seeking being. On this show, it comes to you with a good dose of humour, maybe a smattering of colourful language, a reminder not to take things so personally, and most importantly, to be kind to yourself along the way. Make sure you hit that follow button, and let's get into it. As I'm on the road, I won't be looking at the screen very much. It's raining as well, so I'm going to focus on staying alive. But I thought I'd go live and answer Michelle's excellent question. She said answer not on a postcard. Well, it's answering a live video instead. It's actually a really good question that you'll probably encounter a lot. I'm sure all of you in here at some point have encountered something along these lines, either in your own mind or through a client or someone you're talking to about NPA and things not being personal. So the question that Michelle was asked, if you haven't seen the post, went along the lines of, and I can't read it verbatim, but it went along the lines of, I can't get my head around things not being personal. I believe that I manifest things for good or for bad myself, or something like that. So the short version, the breakdown, and I'm saying it out loud as much to keep it in my head because I just stopped to grab a coffee, read the post and went, what do I want to say about this? There's three parts to it, really. One is sort of understanding the fundamental non-personal nature of reality. Two is the I'm going to say this in an inflammatory way, the delusional idea that I create my own reality. That's the manifesting piece. And the third piece is like the confusion between the distinction of fundamentals in the non-personal perspective and mechanisms, or specifically the mechanism of taking things personally. So let's go through them. So the first one is like the fundamentals of nothing fundamentally as personal. So anyone, if someone asks this question, you say, do you believe that everything is energy? And the chances are, in this day and age, in our wonderful world of spiritual and personal development, I'm going to say that the overwhelming majority, if not 99.9% of people you encounter go, oh yeah, everything is energy. If they believe everything is energy, then they are, whether they realize it or not, saying that fundamentally nothing is personal, because the nature of energy is non-personal. Everything exists everywhere simultaneously. That's like the baseline. Fundamentally nothing is personal. That's the first point, really. So the next bit is I create my own reality. I think there's two parts to this. So there's a point of agreement to a certain level where you say within the non-personal, yes, we have personal experience. And what is the, how does that happen? We get into mechanics and fundamentals. Well, there's a certain aspect in the metaphors that we use at NPA that talks about tuning in to the radio frequency. Again, everything is energy, like a wave, which only becomes manifest to a particle as a consequence of attention. So there's a mechanism in there that says it's personal, therefore I'm going to experience it. The bit about I create my own reality, that's where I'm going to get on my rant box a bit, because I liken that to the pre-Copernicus view of the universe, where all the models of the cosmos, the universe, put the Earth at the very center. Everything revolved around the Earth, which is probably still flat at the time. It's a self-centric model of the world. The idea of I create my own reality tends to come with a very self-focused idea of what creates reality. The non-personal perspective is that we are part of a bigger system. And while there is a certain influence that we can have in a local sense, or it appears that we have local influence over it, fundamentally we are also a consequence to things beyond ourselves. So it's more of a Copernicus was the one that said, hang on a minute, the maths doesn't add up. It doesn't look like we're actually at the center. We're kind of on the outside somewhere. There are other things revolving around us, but we're revolving around something else, the sun. And the sun is revolving around the center of a galaxy. And these galaxies are revolving around the center of something. All of which does not put us at the center of causality when it comes to movement of the planetary bodies. So in the same way, we are not exclusively the manifestors of our reality. There are forces beyond ourselves that impact our experience. Take, for example, right now, it is raining. Now, if we were all individually responsible for manifesting our reality, we would be walking around in weather bubbles of our choice, right? That's just not the case. We don't individually have control over the weather. And that's true in terms of the energetic soups that we live in, which are what are part of creating our experience. So the idea that I get to choose the good and bad in my life, well, some things are as a consequence of greater forces. So that would be my answer to that piece. I think I said there were 2 bits to that, but I can't remember now because I went off on one. The third bit is a distinction between fundamentals and mechanics. So what do I mean by that? Well, fundamentally nothing is personal, and yet there is a mechanism where we take things personally. I talk about it in terms of we say, that's me, that is, therefore we take up an identity with it, which tends to manifest energies in a certain flavour more than others. And those identities tend to control our beliefs and our emotions and our behaviours, those kind of things. But that's ultimately a mechanism which is kind of separate from the fundamental non-personal nature of reality. So there can be a lot of confusion around that when someone says, oh, it is fucking personal. I'm like, well, yeah. Because the other piece of the equation is like saying nothing fundamentally is personal and then taking that concept and saying, therefore we must take nothing personally, misses the point entirely. That's like, it's bad, we must get rid of our ego and become enlightened. It's the same thinking. Without taking anything personally, you would just poof. You wouldn't exist. In order to exist, you have to take something personally, because that is the mechanism of experience. Okay? So, oh, this has told me it's trying to reconnect. So you may have skipped a bit there. I don't know. So it's going backwards and forwards. This is a good example. So the internet is skipping in and out. I don't have any, I mean, I could stop the car in a place where there's good internet, arguably. Anyway, I was touching the metaphor. So where was I? Mechanisms. I was having a rant about saying take nothing personally is like saying be enlightened, get rid of your ego. So we sort of have to take things personally. So if you want to go really deep with anybody on this, then you can get into the territory that that we talked about, lovely mastery people, in module 2, which is the absence of control. Fundamentally, how we choose those mechanisms, it's important to acknowledge the personal interaction, but if you really, really look deep into the quantum mechanics of it and the actuality of it, I always say, Delameter, you were right, we're always the last to know. Because the mechanisms on a bigger level are sourcing the manifestations way deeper than the personal, certainly the conscious level. So I always go back to the, go look at those videos on YouTube, or they're in this group here, of sand on a metal plate. The bigger vibration, okay, and we're back. The bigger vibration in those videos, I'm talking about the videos of, they put sand on a metal plate, change the tone, the frequency. They change the vibration of the energy. Sands, or little grains of sand on there, are compelled to form shapes, to move around and form shapes based on the frequency that's running through the plate. Each individual grain of sand may, if they had souls and brains and conscious thought, consider themselves to be the one that's in charge of that movement. But actually they're responding automatically or compelled by a bigger energy. So if you really want to go down the rabbit hole, answering your friend's question, that's a great territory of conversation, is that there's something bigger in charge. How you console them in the devastation to their ego that they're not in charge is either quote them Gandhi, who says nothing you do will ever really matter, and it's exceptionally important that you do it, which is the whole thing about purpose. And there was a second thing, but with that roundabout, that's gone as well. There we go. I think I've covered everything I want to say. I feel like there was more that I thought about, but it hasn't manifested now. But I think the simple answer to that person is fundamentally nothing is personal, but there is a mechanism by which we take things personally. And the gift of NPA, this is the piece, yes, the gift of NPA in all of it, and I think Mario in the comments touched on this, is the bit that is interesting and where NPA is useful. It softens that personalisation, which is a form of attachment, which creates polarity, which creates charge, which creates stress, is when the mechanism of taking something personally is a bit shit, rather than being rather lovely. That's where NPA can be a great intervention, and offering the non-personal perspective in those situations reduces the charge, therefore the friction, therefore the stress, and allows an openness to align in terms of taking things personally with something that feels better, that works better, that is more true and aligned in the moment. There we go. I've no idea if anybody is on here watching. Feel free to leave me a comment, have a discussion about this, and hope that was helpful. How do I stop this in the car? Finish. There we go. This episode is sponsored by NPA Mastery. Yep, that's our very own NPA Certified Practitioner Program, where you get to up-level your one-to-one work and set yourself apart from other coaches, therapists, and facilitators as you learn NPA's unique agendaless way, which means your client sessions become effortless and resistance-free. No more draining struggles and way more energy after each session. Plus, you'll be able to add the power of NPA in over 30 NPA situation-specific frames alongside whatever modalities you already use. Take your practice to the next level. Visit www.thempaacademy.com/NPA Mastery and get registered today. I'm deeply committed to helping you up-level the work you do with your clients. And here's what the graduate NPA Mastery participants say.
Buckle up, baby, for some turbocharged personal development.
This is by far my most favorite program ever. And believe me, I've had so many programs.
It's a holding your hand all the way through, teaching, using his experience, which is amazing. I've never had case studies done that well in my other courses. That I feel that it's a real learning experience. And he wants us to up level. That's one of his things. And yeah, up leveling right from the beginning. And from the first 5 minutes. But it's really great because I'm feeling that difference in working with other people, in how I am as I am working with those people, and to make it more easy.
And I could see the result. I could see the effect of that in my work with clients immediately, and it just gets better as we go further through the program.
I've learned how much of an agenda I did have when I thought I was pretty agendaless. So the agendalessness of becoming a practitioner opens up a vastness in my own practice that I just didn't realise was available to me.
It's the first time when somebody takes my hand and takes me by my hand and takes me through real intricacies and nuances of what it is to be a practitioner, to be a therapist.
Even though it's online, and I've been on other online things, and you're drained at the end in front of a computer, this is the one where I don't feel drained. Like, because we laugh so much, it's so much fun, and the way it's taught, I don't feel drained at the end of 8 hours on a computer, even though that's a lot of time.
It's deep and powerful and profound. The promise that Joel's making about how agendalessness will improve your effectiveness as a facilitator and as a therapist, that is not an empty promise.
I'd love you to join us, so go to www.theNPAacademy.com/NPA Mastery and get registered today. thanks so much for listening. If you've enjoyed this show, I'd love you to do me a solid and tell someone about it. They can find us on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, and most other podcast platforms. Plus, if you visit the website www.babrillianthuman.com, you can share the show notes to social media and make my day. Also, make sure you hit that follow button, and if you haven't yet downloaded the NPA Process sheet, head on over to joelyoungmpa.com and get your free copy today. Big love, and see you next time.